It's the 4th today, so number 4 is going up, and today I'm going to start and put the first of my little felt things up. Now, I found the patterns for these a few years ago by a lady called, I think she's called Lara, at Crafts, and I think they were really popular. She did a 12 Days of Christmas series in felt ornaments, and I thought they were just so beautiful. So I got the first few patterns of them, but I didn't do them all together. So I just sort of do 1 or maybe 2 a year. It's a couple of years since I did them, so I think I'm only up to, I think I maybe did 8 maids of milking a couple of years ago. But I've got my partridge today, and so the partridge is going up. And I'll probably hang the pear bit up of him tomorrow. He's twirling round a bit, but eventually they just sort of find their own way. I'm busy with the very first of the Christmas present preparations, and today it's Piccalilli. And I'm using my great grandma's recipe, Grandma Pinkney, and I've tweaked it a little bit over the years, but the basic thing is still the way that my grandma made it, my mum made it, my sister makes it, and I make it too. And it is truly delicious. There's a lot of sugar in it, but think about it like a jam, or it's a preserve, isn't it? And the sugar's helping to preserve it. So what I've done already in my bowl here, I've got a mixture of mainly cauliflower and onion. So it's chopped up quite small, just into little florets. So it's supposed to be, the recipe says 2 kilos, but actually I just fill the bowl up, go on till this bowl's filled up. So it's mainly cauliflower, so there's actually 2 cauliflowers in here, 2 great big onions, 1 really large courgette cut up into dice, and 2 red peppers cut up into dice. Now, the courgette and the red peppers definitely not in Great Grandma's recipe, but absolutely feel free to put in the vegetables you like. I know people who put green beans in them and sweet corn. I've just never done that. I like it either with just the cauliflower and onion or the courgette and the pepper as an additive, because the pepper makes it look really pretty. So I've already had this steeping for 24 hours. So I added 100 grams, or around about 4 ounces of salt to this bowl, and then I filled the bowl up with water, and with cold water, and it's been steeping for 24 hours. If it goes a bit longer, it doesn't matter, it's not time sensitive, but you need to be using it within a couple of days really. And so that's already happened, and I've now rinsed it, and it needs the salt rinsing off it. So this whole thing's been in a colander, and I've rinsed it about 3 times. Just got my hands in there and rinsed the vegetables through, drained all the water off, and filled it up with cold water again, and I've done that 3 times. So now I'm ready to make the actual Piccalilli. So the other ingredients are, I have got, let me see, it's 1.5 pints, which is about 800 mils of vinegar. Grandma's recipe says malt vinegar. I usually use cider vinegar. I didn't have enough cider vinegar today. I had about 1 pint of cider vinegar, so I've topped it up to 1.5 pints with malt. So that's my vinegar. The recipe is between 2 and 4 cups of sugar, granulated sugar, and I use it sweeter rather than not so sweet, but you do it to taste. And there's the story for the sugar amount is that when I was first married, and I asked my mum for the Piccalilli recipe because I wanted to make Piccalilli as a newly married woman, thinking I was doing all the lovely things, and she gave me the recipe. And although it came out lovely, it just wasn't quite like hers or Grandma's. And the next year I made it, and it just wasn't. And I went on for years thinking, well, it is nice, but it's just not quite like my mum's Piccalilli. And even though I'd said that to her over the years, she'd say, oh, I don't know why that is. I don't know why that is, Marion. Anyway, one year when I said, oh, it's never the same, Mum. Yours is always better. And she said, well, I do put double the sugar in. And I was like, what? And she was going, well, whatever the recipe says, your dad always liked it sweet, so I used to double the sugar. I go, well, you didn't tell me that. She was, oh, I didn't think about it. So I started putting half as much sugar in again, and hey presto, there was Mum's Piccalilli and Grandma's Piccalilli. So I do use quite a bit of sugar because, hey, that's the way it is, and it's gorgeous. So it's between 2 and 4 cups, and there's about 3 and a bit in there. And then my dry mixture that I've got in here, I have got a half a cup of plain flour in the bottom. And then I have got a tablespoon of turmeric. I've got half a tablespoon of dry mustard. And then that really would be Grandma's recipe. But over the years I've added other things to that. And so there are also 2 teaspoons of ground cumin and 2 teaspoons of ground coriander. And I will put the recipe in the description so that you've got it, because I definitely say have a try of it. So that is all of the recipe. The jars are already clean, they've been heated and they're keeping warm and they're ready for the whole thing to be made. So the next thing is to get my pan and start cooking this up. This goes in last. So all of the sugar has gone in there, and now the flour and the spices are going in as well. And I'm just going to stir that about. And I'm going to slacken it with some of the vinegar, because I don't want lumpy Piccalilli. So I just started off by pouring some of the vinegar in and stirring till I've got a paste. Still got no heat on yet. There we go. It's nice and slackened. And now I can add the rest of the vinegar in, and I can put my heat on actually. I've got a decent heat on. I put the rest of the vinegar in. And I'm actually going to stand here and stir that until the vinegar cooks the flour and the spices out, and it all thickens up. I always feel I'm carrying on a tradition when I do my preserving, because this jam pan was actually my grandma's, and so I'm using her jam pan, great grandma's recipe, and I've tweaked it into the 21st century, so I think all of that's fine. And I've had people who said they didn't like Piccalilli, they didn't like chutneys, and then they try this and they go, well, that's not what Piccalilli tastes like. And I was like, well, that's what real Piccalilli tastes like. And so, yes, have a try. If you like vegetables, and you like chutneys, it's not a chutney though, is it? It's a mustard pickle. When we were little, we'd hardly let the jars go cold, and we'd be urging my mum to open a jar, and my mum made all her bread, and so we'd be having it, great big doorsteps of bread and butter, just with Piccalilli on it, and mopping up the sauce with our bread because we liked it so much. And I do try and make it for Christmas, so that it's a nice present to give to family and friends. It's just about coming up to the boil now. I can feel it thickening under the spoon, and I'll just keep it simmering for a few minutes to make sure that that flour and mustard is all cooked out. So that's now boiling quite nicely, and I'm going to get my veg. I turn that down just to a simmer, and the veg will go straight in. I don't want any of the residual water that might have drained into the bottom of here, so I'm just taking it in a bit at a time. And stir it. Oh, look, the veg changes colour straight away. last bit in. And because it's been salted, even though you're cooking all the veg, it won't go soggy. It stays having a bit of a crunch. I'm going to cook this now for about 15 minutes. Oh, that looks glorious. My mouth's watering at the thought of eating it now. It's had its 15 minutes, and so I'm now just going to turn it off and take it over to the other side so I can bottle it. I've got my hot jars standing waiting. So my jars are hot, my Piccalilli's hot. It isn't something you have to wait for because it doesn't set. It won't be as liquidy as this eventually. It thickens up, but it doesn't set. And I try to be careful because mustard and turmeric will definitely stain if you get it on your clothes. Hence why I'm wearing my pinny. I try and pack it good full of the vegetables and then top it up with the liquid. And make sure there's plenty in, and I get the lid on straight away. And they can be processed in the oven. It always feels really lovely when you've got preserves up for the winter. I really love making stuff like this. I was married very young, so it always made me feel like a grown-up. Try that one. And that's all there is to it, really. Piccalilli, it's not very hard to do. No setting points, no waiting for timers or pushing wrinkles on sauces. Well, in the end, I got 10 jars of varying sizes, and there wasn't quite enough to make another jar because quite often what you've got left over is quite a lot of the sauce and not so much veg because you've packed the jars full of the veg. So usually I just put that in a bowl and I'll be waiting for that to get cold, and then I'll be carrying on the family tradition of eating it with some fresh bread and butter, and that'll be my first taste of this year's Piccalilli. So I feel very satisfied that I have made a start. I'll put the details in the description so that if you do want to have a go at Grandma Pinkney's Piccalilli, then you can do so, and by all means tweak the recipe as you like. That's how recipes can carry on. Well, I can hardly believe it. Here I am packing the very first of my bags to go out, and it seems to have taken me a while to get organised, but here I am with the first one getting packaged up. I hope it gets to the recipient in good order. And I'll put a sticker on. There we go. It goes in the box. I can't actually believe it. Oh my goodness, there it is, done. I have a few more to pack, which is very exciting, and get them off to the post office. So thank you, everybody who's been on already. Bye from Marion's World. Like, subscribe, do all the other things that I'm supposed to say, and I'll see you tomorrow for another instalment of my Advent Diary. Never thought this would have been making it onto the Advent Diary. Amazing.